Hi, my name is Brandy. My channel is a bit crafty, and today I'm going to be making dragon eggs, and that's no yolk. I'm going to be using hollowed out duck egg shells, as you can see here. First things first, I'm going to need some clay. I like to use Fimo clay since I can bake it in the oven. It takes about 2 packages to cover each egg. And when I use the clay, I like to chop it up first and then run it through the pasta maker to make it more malleable and thin to cover each egg. Now, inquiring minds might want to know why I'm using real duck eggs, and the reason is because they look more like a dragon egg shape to me instead of just looking like an Easter egg. There's another bonus to using dragon eggs is that they have thicker shells. And since I drop these eggs at least twice to not 3 times during each time I make them, it's nice that all my work doesn't immediately shatter. Adhering the clay to the egg is much easier because the egg surface is porous. I have tried using wood eggs before as well as plastic, but the clay just slid around on it and it wouldn't stay attached to the egg. It's easier to layer when everything stays put. I love this little tool. I bought it at a craft store for really cheap, and it makes making these eggs so much easier. The idea of having to sit here and individually try to carve out every single little scale that probably takes about, I don't know, 100 of them to make an egg individually gives me nightmares. It's time to apply the scales to the egg. I want to make sure I get them lined up so they get spread across the egg evenly. It makes the egg not look crooked when I get to the top, or just not look crooked in general. Also remember, just a thin layer is going to be needed because all these scales are going to overlap. And since it's Fimo clay that I'm using, you have to put it in the oven to bake it. And the thicker the clay is, the longer it has to stay in the oven. I'm not sure if that would cause the egg to crack, but I do not want to take the risk and ruin the egg. Also, even though it's clay, it can still burn, and it smells terrible. You don't want that lingering in your kitchen. Now, as you can kind of see here, as I add on the scales, there's going to be a wrinkle that's caused from the clay going from the clay bottom onto the egg itself. But you don't have to worry because as you add on all the scales and layers, it's going to be covered up by that. One thing I forgot to note earlier was the order that I create these eggs, and it has to do with running the clay through the pasta machine. I do clean it after every new color of clay that I use, but no matter how many times I clean it, there still manages to get little chunks of clay stuck in there. And when you roll it out in the sheet, it gets stuck in the clay, and it's just a real pain to pick it out. So what I like to do is use the light colors first, and I don't have to spend so much time using the paint job to cover up all the mistakes of the clay that I managed to miss. So remember, it's easier if you go lightest to darkest to cut down on the coats of paint. And here you can see all the scales lined up on the top of the egg. Now it's time to get started on the black egg, the second egg that I'm going to make. I'm going to make a total of 3 eggs today, a white egg, a black egg, and a green egg. So it's going to be the same colors in a show that we all know and love and hate the way that it ended. The process is the same for the black egg as the white egg. Make sure the base is good and secure on the egg, and then I can just start adding scales from the bottom until the entire egg is covered once again. It's a pretty simple process, just repetitive. I'm overlapping each scale to give it a more organic appearance. I will lay each scale from the row above in between the rows below to ensure total coverage so none of the white egg shows through. The clay will strengthen the egg after it's baked because, of course, that is the most perilous part of this project, is breaking the egg. But how cool is it I can say that they're real eggs? And I'm going to speed it up here so you can see me apply the scales. Make sure that each scale is firmly applied so it doesn't fall off during the baking process. And you can see how I'm doing the layers and overlapping each of the little scales on the egg until I get the egg covered. the black egg has been cooked for 10 minutes in the oven at about 230 degrees Fahrenheit, I'm going to shake the paint on. The paint that I used is in a metallic black, and I painted the base coat with 2 coats. And for as much as I complain about putting the scales on, I like to do the red highlights or the accent color highlights individually. You can fake a lot with a great paint job, and a bad paint job can really ruin a project. Just remember, when you're painting the accent marks, I like to get just the tips of each of the little V shapes on the scales and paint those with the accent marks. I don't really want to go and overdo it with the accent marks to make the egg look, red instead of black or whatever the base color is of the egg I'm working on. I originally came up with the idea of these eggs as gifts, and they do make wonderful gifts. However, I would not make them as wedding gifts, because every time I've made them for wedding gifts, those marriages have ended in divorce. It's time to finish up the white egg. I will use a metallic gold to paint 2 coats for each of the gold accent marks on this egg. I've blended my eggs with both the books and the TV show. In the TV show, they're just their base color and they're flat, but in the books, they're described as beautiful and have accent colors. Beautiful makes me think shiny like jewels, and that's why I use metallic paint for the base coat and the accent marks on these eggs. I learned about using eggshells for crafts from my grandmother. We used to dip dye eggs. The technique involved using wax to seal each individual color. You would start with maybe red, then cover it up with wax, and dip it orange, and seal that with wax until you covered the egg in all the colors. After that, you could remove the wax and have a colorful finished egg. That was a fun project, but if I can add fantasy, especially books I've read in a project, that makes it even better to me. I forgot to actually record me making the green egg, so we're going to use the age-old technique of shaking the color on. A shake for the green metallic, and then a shake to get on those beautiful bronze accents. Remember, it's going to be 2 coats each, and with that, we're done with all our eggs and can move on to the final shots. If you find this content excellent, please subscribe. I would love to be able to make more weird projects for you guys, and thank you for watching.